A Jewish prophet just called a baby mighty God, not a mighty warrior, not blessed by God, but God himself. Either Isaiah committed the ultimate blasphemy, or he saw something 700 years into the future that would change everything. Jesus had a custom. Every Sabbath, he attended synagogue to hear the weekly Torah readings. So did Paul, as well as many of the first century Jews who became Christians. In this series, I'm studying just the Messianic portions that are still part of the weekly readings read today. My hope is that you'll see that Jesus is the Messiah you've been waiting for. This week's Torah portion is Jethro, where Moses receives the Ten Commandments at Mount Sinai. God's voice shakes the mountain. The people tremble with a sense of awe. They beg Moses, "You speak to us, not God. We're afraid we'll die." The Torah and the Haftarah readings were linked by a theme. Reading one would remind them of the other. The Haftarah in Isaiah chapter 6 is where Isaiah sees the Lord on his throne, high and lifted up. But then Isaiah says something in chapter 9 that makes rabbis deeply uncomfortable. Let's get into it. Isaiah 6. The prophet sees the Lord seated on a throne with a robe so long that it fills the temple. A pair of seraphim are there, and one cries out to the other, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of angel armies. The whole earth is full of his glory." The voice was so loud that the foundations of the doorframe were shaking. Then the temple started filling with smoke. At this point, you can see that Isaiah is totally overwhelmed with fear. But try to imagine yourself in the same situation. You are standing before the God of the universe, and the sheer awesomeness of his presence overwhelms you. He cries out, "Woe is me! I am ruined. I'm a man of unclean lips, living amongst unclean people, and I have seen the King, the Lord of hosts." A seraphim touches his lips with a burning coal from the altar. Your guilt is taken away. Your sin is atoned for. Then God asks, "Whom shall I send, and who will go for us?" Isaiah responds, "Here I am. Send me." Here, God tells him to share some difficult news. Go and tell this people, keep on hearing, but do not understand. Keep on seeing, but do not perceive. Make the heart of this people dull, and their ears heavy, and blind their eyes, lest they see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their hearts, and turn and be healed. Jesus quoted this exact passage 6 times in the Gospels. Why is that? Because this same pattern of hearing and not understanding, seeing but not perceiving, were happening to many listening during his day. But then Isaiah asked the question we all want to know. How long will the people be blind? How long will they reject your words? God answers, until cities lie waste without inhabitants, and houses without people, and the land is a desolate waste, and the Lord removes people far away, and the forsaken places are many in the midst of the land. In other words, until exile, until judgment, until the land is emptied. In 1867, Mark Twain visited the Holy Land. He wrote, "A desolate country whose soil is rich enough, but is given over wholly to weeds, a silent, mournful expanse. We never saw a human being on the whole route. There was hardly a tree or a shrub anywhere. Even the olive and the cactus, those fast friends of a worthless soil, had almost deserted the country." But then, verse 13, the hope. "And though a tenth remained in it, it will be burned again, like a terebinth or an oak, whose stump remains when it is felled, The holy seed is its stump, a remnant, a stump, life coming from death. The holy seed preserved. Today, Israel is back in the land, thriving, rebuilt. After 2,000 years of exile, the people have returned, which means, according to Isaiah 6:11 through 13, the time of blindness should be ending. Eyes should be opening. Ears should be hearing. So what did Isaiah prophesy that they should finally see? Isaiah 9:6. This is where everything explodes. For unto us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful, Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Let's break down each name in Hebrew. Pele means wonder or miracle, not just wise advice, but supernatural wisdom. Yoetz means counselor. This child will give counsel that is beyond human wisdom. Miraculous guidance. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. El Gibbor, not a mighty hero, not godlike, not blessed by God. El equals God, the same word used for God throughout the Tanakh. Gibbor equals mighty, warrior, strong. Isaiah uses these exact terms, El Gibbor, to describe Yahweh himself in Isaiah 10:21. Same prophet, same book, same term, describing God. And now he's calling a child by that name. Either Isaiah made a catastrophic theological error, or this child is different than any other child ever born. A child called Everlasting Father, not Father of eternity, but the eternal Father himself. How can a child be called Father and not just any Father, the Everlasting One? Sar equals Prince or Ruler. Shalom equals peace, wholeness, or completeness. This child will rule, and his rule will bring ultimate peace, not just absence of war. Shalom means everything set right, whole, complete, perfect. And verse 7 says, his government and peace will have no end, it's forever. So what did ancient Jewish sources say about this prophecy? The Targum Jonathan, an Aramaic paraphrase used in synagogues, translates Isaiah 9:6 like this: For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and he has taken the law upon himself to keep it. His name is called from before him who is wonderful in counsel, the mighty God who liveth to eternity, the Messiah whose peace shall be great upon us in his days. Did you catch that? The Targum explicitly calls this child Messiah. The Targum changes the grammar to avoid calling the child mighty God directly. Instead, it says the names are given by the mighty God, but it still identifies the child as Messiah. The Talmud discusses whether Hezekiah could have been the Messiah. Some rabbis argue yes, because of Isaiah 9:6. Others argue no, because he didn't bring universal peace. But the point is, ancient rabbis saw Isaiah 9:6 as a messianic prophecy. They debated who the Messiah was, not whether this passage was messianic. Multiple midrashic sources connect Isaiah 9:6 to the Messiah. Ancient Jewish sources saw this as messianic. The debate wasn't, is this referring to the Messiah? It was, which person is the Messiah? That's a huge distinction. So why don't modern synagogues teach Isaiah 9:6 as messianic? Modern Jewish scholars argue that the grammar should be read differently. They say the names aren't describing the child, but are one long sentence describing God who names the child. Translation: the wonderful counselor, the mighty God, the everlasting Father, calls his name Prince of Peace. So only the last name of the four applies to the child. There's one problem though. That's not how Hebrew grammar typically works in naming passages, and it doesn't explain why the Targum and ancient rabbis saw it as messianic. Some rabbis say this was fulfilled by King Hezekiah, who brought reform and peace to Judah. Hezekiah died, his government ended. Also, the world didn't have universal peace under Hezekiah. Some argue these are throne names, exalted titles like Egyptian pharaohs used, not literal claims of divinity. The only problem is, no other Israelite king was ever called El Gibbor or Everlasting Father. These names are reserved for Yahweh alone. Look, I get it. Calling a child Mighty God creates a massive theological problem, unless that child actually is God in human form. Then it makes perfect sense. 700 years after Isaiah wrote this, a child was born in Bethlehem. Matthew 4:16 quotes Isaiah 9:1 through 2. The people dwelling in darkness have seen a great light. The context? Jesus beginning his ministry in Galilee, the same region Isaiah prophesied about. His teaching amazed the crowd. No one ever spoke like this man. He calmed storms, raised the dead, forgave sins, something only God can do. He said before Abraham was, I am, using the divine name. His last words to his disciples, peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. Still increasing. 2,000 years later, billions of followers across every nation. If Jesus claimed to be this child, performed signs that validated those claims, revealed himself in the scriptures to many first-century Jews, who later spread these truths to every nation on earth that would have eyes to see, shouldn't you at least investigate these claims yourself? Remember Isaiah 6? The blindness lasts until the land is desolate and the people are removed. That happened in 70 AD. The temple was destroyed. The people scattered for 2,000 years. But now, well, Israel's back. The land is flourishing. The people have returned. According to Isaiah's prophecy, the time of blindness should be ending. Eyes should be opening. Ears should be hearing. Maybe that's why you're watching this video right now. Maybe it's time to see what Isaiah saw. A child called Mighty God, born to save his people, born to save you. Quick note, the Haftarah reading this week stops short of including Isaiah 7:14. The famous virgin/young woman will conceive prophecy. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and call his name Emmanuel. This deserves its own deep dive, and it's not part of the weekly Torah portion cycle, so I'm not covering it in detail today. But if you want me to do a separate series on Messianic prophecies that aren't in the weekly reading, please leave a comment down below. If there's enough interest, maybe we can tackle those next year. Look, I know Isaiah 9:6 is controversial. If you're a rabbi or a Jewish scholar and I've misrepresented the grammar, the Targums, the ancient sources, please correct me in the comments. I'm here to learn, not win arguments. All of my research, the Targum Jonathan, the Talmudic references, the Hebrew breakdown, the modern Jewish response, the Christian interpretation, it's all documented at Grafted In Again, or you can look in the show notes below. But check the sources for yourself. Let's discover truth together. When checking the schedule and how long it takes to make these videos, plus being relatively new at this, I am going to have to skip next week's video so that I can stay on track. If I get quicker at it down the road, I'm sure I'll circle back. But for now, I will at least have the blog post created for the Haftarah reading called Mishpatim, I think that's how you pronounce it, which recounts God's laws that Moses passed on to the Israelites. So the next one I should have a video on is going to be on March 21st, Vakera. It means, and he called. This may be one of the biggest videos yet because it has a Haftarah reference, a Torah reference, as well as a Messianic reference for the Shabbat Parah, the Sabbath of the red heifer. Keep seeking truth, and remember, all scripture points to the Messiah. If you would like to watch more videos in this series, click over here. For any of our other videos, try over here.